A very enthusiastic good noon to everyone, as I am honored to have the opportunity to welcome our today's speaker and the dignified members of Management Committee and all the participants here in this webinar titled English Literature and Language. Following the tradition, I would like to invite Dr. Krishna Dev Shukla sir for Mangalacharan to give the webinar an auspicious start. Sir.
मिथस्पर्शा परशे प्राणायन तृषां राघव दृशां प्रसारं मर्यादा क्रमण चपलम् अव्यमिलने जयन्तीक्षा शिक्षा वितरण शुभेच्छावनिसुते सनाशेय प्रेयः प्रदिशतु तवापाङ्गलहरी.
As we all know, English is a global, universal, and glorious language. And one of the best things about this language is it welcomes everyone. It welcomes all the writers and all the thoughts, all the expressions. English has got the honor of being universal or a global language because it connects all the world very smoothly. I would like to introduce our today's keynote speaker, ma'am, for this session, Dr. Kirti Shekhawat, ma'am. Ma'am is designated to the post of Joint Director of College Education, Jaipur. Ma'am is retired principal of Government College, Jaipur, and a research guide of Sham University, Dosa. She is master trainer of communicative English, teaching English as a second language, and certified trainer in DTS and DOT. She is expert in sign language and the disaster management too, and the state coordinator of NSS and organized many state level seminars as well. So I would like to invite ma'am for the session. Ma'am.
Thank you, Shruti, for that introduction. First of all, I would like to thank the organizers of the webinar on English language and literature, the college, the patron, Dr. Lalit Sharma, the convener, Dr. Shruti, and Mr. Satish Kumar Jain. Thank you all for giving me this opportunity to be with the students, to be with all of you. Thank you so much. As you all know, the topic of today's webinar is interpreting poetry. I would like to ask the students and all the participants over there to imagine yourself as standing in front of an ocean. Now there are three variables. You either are a very good swimmer, you are a beginner who has begun swimming, and you don't know swimming. What will you do? If you are a good swimmer, you will walk into the ocean confidently and you will start swimming. If you are a beginner, what will you do? You will walk into the ocean and swim near the shore because you're a little afraid. If you don't know swimming, you will definitely walk into the ocean for a few steps, wait for the waves to come to you, and you will feel your heart sinking when the sand beneath your feet drifts away with the waves. This is the same feeling that you get when you start to read poetry. If you are well versed in understanding poetry, you are like a good swimmer. But if you are not, you are just, throwing your hands and legs around trying to understand how to stay afloat in that ocean. But one thing good is that if you have an instructor or a teacher telling you, that teacher and the instructor will definitely not let you sink. They will tell you how to do it step by step. So there is a process to learning poetry also. To the well-versed swimmer, the coach will tell you a few points where you are missing out. To a beginner, the coach will definitely tell you how to improve yourself. And to the newcomer, the coach will be with you, guide you step by step, and tell you this is how you do it. Now it is upon you to understand what the instructions are, to learn and become a more confident person. But at no stage will the coach tell you to stay away from the ocean or the water. In the same manner, no teacher will tell you that don't read poetry because it's difficult. You read it because you want to understand it. So today, in this afternoon, I'd say good afternoon, friends. Let us walk into the world of literature and explore the vast ocean of literature. We all know that literature has many forms: fiction, non-fiction, drama, folk tales, poetry. Now it depends what interests you and how you interpret it. Today, Ma'am Shruti gave me the topic of dealing with poetry. So I won't talk about the other forms of literature. I will just talk about poetry and how you will go about to understand it, how to approach it, how to understand poetry. Some of you might be experts. There are teachers who I know will know more than me. And whatever I'm going to say today is not something that you don't know. You know everything. It's all over the net. So I cannot profess that I'm an expert, but yes, I will definitely play the role of the coach or the instructor or the teacher who can tell you how to interpret it so that when you do it the next time, you do it with more confidence. When you write an essay also, you go to the background first. So when we are talking about poetry, let us go to the background of poetry. And very briefly, I'd like to state that poetry comes from the Greek word poesis, which means making. And poetry is defined as the process of creating a literary piece. You know what the difference is between poetry and poem? A poetry is the process of creating a literary piece, and the end result is called a poem. So when you are writing something, you're writing poetry, you're creating poetry. But when you are reading something, a work which has already been done, it is a poem to you. So as literature students, you should definitely know the difference between a poetry and a poem. If you go for a literal definition, poetry is literature that evokes a concentrated imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response through language chosen and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. I think the definition is very clear. It evokes your imaginative awareness. Whenever you are reading poetry, you also imagine. It has to be picturesque. Awareness of experience. When Shakespeare writes about friendship, you think of your friend. So that is your imaginative awareness of experience or a specific emotional response. Through language chosen. The language could be any language. It could be and arranged for its meaning, sound, and rhythm. Even when you listen to a song in your own language, that song brings out emotions into you, and you like the song because it has meaning, it has sound, and it has rhythm, the music that accompanies it. All right. I'll get a little off the topic and I'll tell you, I want you to know that 21st August is always celebrated as a Poets' Day. And if you're students who are interested in poetry, or if you have a literary club in your college, you should always read poems on those days, especially on 21st of August, so that you can celebrate it as a Poet's Day. I have great pride to tell you that the longest poem in the world is an Indian poem, the Mahabharata, written by Rishi Vyas, and it has 1.8 million words. I mean, we should be proud, though we are talking about English literature, but this is something that gives me great pride. And the shortest poem is of one word. That is written by Aram Saroyan. He's an American writer. And he uses just one word, M, with another leg. That is, instead of 3 legs in M, there are 4 M's, 4 legs in M. And the meaning is not clear. You can interpret it as you want. Some say it is a fusion of M and N. Some say it is the breaking of M and N. Some say it is I am, which means the formation of consciousness, the rise of the self. See now how one word gives you so many meanings. It is all about how you interpret poetry. There are no right or no wrong views about interpreting poetry. And when we are talking of English literature, let us just realize that English literature, the beginning of English poetry was by Geoffrey Chaucer in England. He was known as the father of English language, literature, and the father of English poetry. So with this background, I would say that Thomas Gray in a line said, poetry is thoughts that breathe and words that burn. How very appropriate. Thoughts that breathe. You are writing, you're giving life to your thoughts, and words that burn. Burn means your emotions. They touch you, they make you alive, they make you burn. So this is what poetry is. And when you listen to a song, becomes a favorite song for you. Why? Because you like those words, you like the music, you like the rhythm, and you can relate to it somewhere. So poetry touches your soul, poetry touches your heart, poetry touches your mind. So when I was when I thought of talking on interpreting poetry, I did ask Shruti ma'am to give you, to tell you to have the poem On His Blindness by John Milton along with you, so that we could interpret as a poem which is of your syllabus and which I suppose the second year, third year children have already read it. So they know the poem. And you have already interpreted the poem. So it will be easier for us to interpret it. Otherwise, it would have been just a theoretical poem work saying, you talk about the title, you talk about the tone, and you talk about the language, and you talk about the figures of speech. So as I talk on with this poem in the context, we'll interpret this poetry. And as you are approaching it, I assume you will understand what kind of a swimmer you are. First, second, or third. Are you a beginner? Are you a learner? Or you are an expert on this? Okay. So now I understand you have the poem with you, or if not, you can always Google search if you are allowed out over there. Let's begin with how I would interpret poetry as. I would first read the poem. It's a short poem. If you don't have the text, I can read it for you. John Milton on His Blindness. When I consider how my light is spent, or half my days, in this dark world and wide, and that one talent which is death to hide, lodged with me useless, though my soul more bent, to serve there with my Maker, and present my true account, lest he returning chid, doth God exact day labor, like denied, I fondly ask, but patience to prevent that murmur soon replies, God doth not need either man's work or his own gifts. Who best bear his mild yoke, they serve him best, his state is kingly. Thousands at his bidding speed, and post over land and ocean without rest, they also serve who only stand and wait. If you are new to this poem, you understand, or what I understand is that the poet is talking about his own blindness. There are many words which I don't understand. There are some words that I understand. So the next step that I do is I pick up a dictionary, or I go to a site where I can get access to the meanings, and I underline all the difficult words that I don't know. I look up their meaning and I write the meanings right next to the words over there. And then I read it again. If you do it now, if you do it again, you will realize that you have learned the text. You will understand that you can, actually understand most of the text without anyone explaining it to you. And this is not only for this poem, for any poem, whether it is in any language, whether it is Hindi, whether it is French, Japanese, whatever language you know, some students may be Sanskrit students, even in a language, the process is the same. So by the second reading, your understanding of the poem becomes clear. It becomes more clear. Now, when we have read this poem, we now try to figure out, we see, the poem is small, the length of the poem. Is it small? Is it long? What kind of a poem is this? So what we do, we try to understand what type of poetry it is. For this, you have to know the different types of poetries. The different type of poetries are blank verse, free verse, haiku, limerick, epic, elegy, ode, pastoral, ballad, soliloquy, lyric, narrative, and the sonnet. So now from all of these types of poetries, we will only talk about the sonnet because this poem is a sonnet. I know because you all are the second year and the third year students know what a sonnet is. The first year students also know what a sonnet is because you have already done Shakespeare. So looking at the poem, we count the lines. We know there are 14 lines. So now, according to theories, a sonnet is a poem of 14 lines and it has division. You know what is a Shakespearean sonnet, how it divides. And this is a sonnet written by Milton, and the division is a little different. When you see how you do it is you see the last word of every line. The first line, spent, matches the last word of the fourth line, bent. The second and the third line match. Spent, bent, wide, height. Similarly, as the lines go forward, present and prevent, chide and denied. Then need and speed, best and state. Now the last two lines rhyme, wait and rest. So we have a rhyme scheme of ABBA, 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 and CC. Okay, is that clear? Now we are clear that this poem is a sonnet. It has a division, and this is known as a Miltonic sonnet or a Petrarchan sonnet. A group of 4 lines is known as a quatrain. So we have 3 groups of 4 lines. So we have 3 quatrains, and the last 2 lines are known as a couplet. I'm not talking of anything new. I assume that all of you know what this is. So now Milton, throughout his life, he wrote 24 sonnets. And this sonnet on his blindness is the 16th sonnet that he wrote when he was nearly 44 years old. This is assumed because of the line in his poem where he says, half my days. The second line, how my life is spent, half my days. That is before, is before, because that was the English of that time. The very first line, when you pick up, when I consider, I is a personal noun. So from the very first line, you know that the author is speaking, the poet is speaking about himself. So the poem becomes autobiographical, personal, expressing his personal views. Okay. Now, since I assume that you have gone through the poem, you have either read it now or you have read it before. The very first line, when I consider how my light is spent half my days in this dark world and wide. You see the repetition of the word W, world and wide. These are the figures of speech that we have to take care of. So the figure of speech over here is alliteration, where you have a repetition of the letter W. Okay. Now, we have to, as we read, we think that what else is he using? So you come to the 7th, 8th line, I think. I fondly ask, but patience to prevent. Patience. Over here, soon replies, the next line. Patience to prevent, that murmur soon replies. So is patience a living being? How can it reply? But it is replying to the writer. So an inanimate thing, a non-living thing, which is assumed by the writer to be living, is known as personification. So the second figure of speech that he uses over here is personification. And the third thing which I feel is that the writer is using a metaphor in the poem, where in the very first line he says, how my light is spent. The light is spent. Spent means over. It is finished. It has. So he's using the metaphor of a lamp. A lamp that, like, in old days, you had a chimney and you put kerosene oil into it and there was a wick. And the whole night, the wick would burn till the lamp had oil in it. So just as a lamp burns out once the oil is over, in the same way, he says, my light has been spent. My eyesight is not supporting me. That is one view that you can take. The second metaphor could be to the days and sunlight, because he says, my light is spent, my world is dark and white. That means the sunlight has disappeared. He's blind, he cannot see. So everything is dark for him. So these are two metaphors that you can use. So we have three figures of speech over here. We have the alliteration, we have metaphor, and we have personification. Okay. Now, if you see, when you have read the poem, what do you think? Is the poet happy? No. The poet seems to, be in a mood where he's sad, he's pensive. And he's complaining that his life, he has a purpose in life, and that purpose is not being fulfilled because he's not being able to write poems. And surprisingly, you will see how as you read the poem, his pessimistic attitude changes to an optimistic attitude. That is, his belief moves on, and he feels that he's happy. He has resigned himself to his fate, and therefore he's okay with it. He has no problems with it. Okay, so now we know that he's talking about his blindness. We know that he's depressed, but he has accepted his fate and he has belief in God, and he is willing to go along. So now when we have superficially analyzed the poem like this, we now go to the background of the poem. Why is he writing it? What are the factors that are affecting him? So we'll do a background check on the photo, on the poem. And we will see what the historical, which period did it belong to? That is, Milton lived from 1608 to 1674. Now, and he lived in England. So we are talking of what was happening in England at that time. What were the factors that made him write like this? So we have to understand the historical events of England at that time. And at that time, initially, from 1642 to 1648, we have the Civil War in England, the Stuart England, where the king was there and the people rebelled against the king. And then you have from 1649 to 1653, you have the Commonwealth coming in, the interregnum. And then you have from 1654 to 1660, you have the protectorate or the restoration period, when the king was again restored to the throne in 1660. So you see these historical and political events played a great role in the thoughts of Milton. Then the religious views. These historical and political events were also related to the religious acceptance of church and the faith in God. People did not like the supremacy of the church and the supremacy of the monarchy over there at that time, and they were against it. So obviously, Milton was a very religious man, and at this time, people had great moral values. So the social factors, so what we have to keep into mind when we read any poem is what made the writer write what he wrote. So we have to keep in mind, number one, the historical events, the political events, the social factors, the economic status, and the moral values that prevailed at that time in England. Okay. So we have to keep in view that one of the most important work of Milton, Paradise Lost. It is an epic again. It's a very long poem. It was written in 1652 after he became blind. So you see the faith of a man in God and his acceptance of his disability, and then writing a poem like that. So we have to talk about the Puritan movement when we talk of Milton. We have to talk about the Restoration when we talk about Milton. And over there, we have to have the rebirth of moral nature of man. That is what Milton talks of and what his belief is. Now let us, when we talk of his belief, we can say that Milton is a very religious man. His belief in the Bible and God is very, very obvious in the poem. Now we can say that there are biblical references. When we turn back to the poem, we can say there are biblical references over here. The biblical references are, if you want to see, in the 11th line, he says, bear his mild yoke. Yoke is the will of God. There is another word, patience. Patience is a spiritual necessity. You know, as you grow older, when you're young, you fight a lot. You argue a lot. You refuse to accept what is there. But as you grow old, your patience increases. That is, you're moving towards spirituality. It is a spiritual necessity and a gift of the Holy Spirit. To Milton, this is taken from the Beatitudes, Matthew 5.5. In the same way, the line, 11th line, the last line, they also serve who only stand and wait. This is taken from the scriptures of Isaiah And it accepts, or it shows Milton's belief over here. And the parable of the word patience, we have already done. Then they serve him best, again the angels. The parable of the talents in Matthew 25, 14, 30, that is which states, develop God-given abilities to the full and be prepared to take risks. This is the actual thing which Milton has picked up in the last lines, where he says that we have to wait over there. So over here, we can say that there are biblical references in the poem. You can find them from the text, and it is very much present over here. Now we can talk about the imagery in the poem. The imagery is constantly moving from light to darkness and from darkness to light. So that imagery, from his light gone, how he cannot see, and how his light is spent, and in the end, how he will wait for God to give him the direction or the way to write something. In the same way, symbolism has been used to clarify the picture of the writer's grief. How we had already spoken about how he uses the imagery of a lamp, of a sun, to show how he is unable to do it. Now, we can come back to the title and say that the title is very personal on his blindness, very clear, very simple, very personal. And as I have already mentioned to you, the poem is autobiographical. The very first line, the use of I, tells you that. Now we have to see the background of the poem. Where is the poem set? Is it set outside? Is it in a field? Is it in a room? Is it in a textbook? So the background is the mind of the poet. It is internalized. It is set in the mind of the poet, and it expresses his doubts about himself, about his own capability. And the end result of the poem is that the poet finds consolation within himself. He's not going out, he's not asking anyone else, or he's not, questioning anything. In a sonnet, there is a statement in the beginning, and then there is an answer to it. So here the statement is all inside, it is all internalized. So you can write that the background of the poem is the internalization of his thoughts, where it is set in his mind, because these are all thoughts that are coming to his mind. Okay. One of the very important things that you have to keep in mind when you are interpreting a poetry is, what is the moral of the poetry? There has to be a moral, right? So the moral of the poetry over here, if you see, is the 9th and 10th line of the poem. God does not need either man's work or his own gifts. This is a line. If you are analyzing this poem, I would say this is a line which you should underline and learn by heart, so that you can quote it into your answer whenever you are interpreting it. Then, the purpose of writing. Why was he writing this poem? Because there were challenges that he was facing. There were physical challenges, there were spiritual challenges, and therefore the tone also progresses from doubt and frustration to humbleness. So the moral of the story is writing, there is there, and the purpose, what he writes, the tone, and then comes the theme of the poem. The theme is loss of eyesight, human frailty, human weakness, unable to be confident, the biblical authority, his trust in God. And he feels that, if he trusts God, he will definitely find a way out of it. Then the language of the poem. Is it difficult? Is it simple? Is it contextual? Context? Does it have a context like you have the Bible over here? And what does it express? It expresses fear, frustration, and acceptance. Three things that you have to understand: his fear of losing his eyesight and being unable to write. That is his frustration, that his talent is not being used. And then his acceptance of God and the ways of God. Now, with this, I think you would be able to understand how you have to interpret a poem. And definitely in the end, you have to have a conclusion. The conclusion will include a revision of all that you have said over here. That is, the poem is autobiographical, the poem is religious, the poem is an expression of his inner self, it is man's obedience to God and represents the poet's movement from pessimism to optimism. The main characteristics are the sense of beauty, how he manages to bring out his inner nervousness and finish it off with confidence, that is the stateliness of manner, and how his thoughts and emotions are conveyed through this medium, and the internal conflict that is present over there. So I suppose, I know if it was a class, perhaps we could have been more interactive and we could have discussed it more clearly, but I suppose I have been able to make it clear to you that how you should go about interpreting a poem, whichever poem it is, and that there is nothing right or wrong in interpreting a poem. You could agree with the writer's viewpoint, you could disagree with the writer's viewpoint, and you can say, see, I think the poem is like this, but if you say it is like this, you have to give your viewpoints, you have to justify, you have to describe and analyze how you have understood it. That is what is the most important thing. It is not, that you go on a stereotype manner and you say this is how it has to be interpreted or this is not to be interpreted. You interpret it and then you say that this is how it is done and give your viewpoint. Your marks that you get come from your conclusion. Especially poems, unknown poems, when you do not know, when you do not have so much of matter, you can just think about it. This is a viewpoint which I, as a student, read it. I agree with this. I could disagree with this. And I can write my own viewpoint. There is nothing right or wrong with this. So, in a nutshell, I suppose I have given you a broad outline of how you interpret a poetry. And let me just summarize it for you. If you have missed out any points, you can just take them up. And we can analyze you can analyze what kind of a swimmer you are. Are you the first in the race? Are you a learner? Are you a beginner? And how much effort you have to put in to understanding any poem of any subject. The pattern remains the same. So what we did is we spoke of different kinds of literature, definition of poetry, different types of poetry, the longest and the shortest poems in the world, how you approach a poem, reading a poem, what are sonnets, the figurative language used in the sonnet, the tone of the poem, a background check, the historical, political, religious, social, economic, and moral values of the particular age when the poem was written. See, there are plenty of aspects that change with time. Even when we come to Indian literature, you see there are plenty of factors which have changed. I'm talking of Indian literature because that is a background which all of us are familiar to. For example, a simple thing like a parda system. The initial poetry had, or verse or texts do not describe parda. It was a result of historical movements or political effects. And now you can see whatever poetry is written now, you have plenty of people who are writing about, the lives of people during Corona. So whatever is affecting your life is represented in literature. So you can say that literature is imitation of life, whether it is in the form of poetry, prose, whatever it is. So whenever you are reading a text, you always have to keep in mind the background and the period in which that text was written, the circumstances which made the person think as he wrote. Then the title of the poem, we spoke of the moral of the poem, the purpose of writing, the theme, the language, and the conclusion. I suppose I'm clear. I have made it clear to you how you can analyze a poem, how you can write a poem. And I suppose with that I can conclude. I hope you're not sleeping. Shruti, you can get back. If there are any questions, thank you, Shruti. If there are any questions.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for delivering such an informative session.
Thank you.
Now I invite the inquiries and questions. If there is any query or question, you are cordially invited.
Yeah, anyone who wants anything. I don't think I was so clear. I think they're sleeping as Shruti.
No, ma'am.
No?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Everything sounds very well.
Very clear. Okay, so if they are clear and if they want, even if it is not a question related to the topic, they are free to ask. You can tell them if it is related to anything else also. If they want to ask, they are free to ask.
Whether there is a question or a query, or we shall just take the session towards ending.
Yeah. Okay.
Now, I would like to invite our principal sir for Thanksgiving, or to put our thanks.
Namaskar. On behalf of the Sanskrit Shiksha Samiti and the entire academic fraternity of Sanskrit College, I extend heartfelt our key speakers of the webinar today, Madam Dr. Kirti Shekhawat.
Thank you,
It
sir.
is our honor, ma'am, that despite your busy schedule, you are considerate upon the request and grace our webinar session today. We believe that your words of wisdom and detailed expression of the topic, the students and teachers are highly enriched and happy at the end of the webinar. Thank you so much.
Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Thank you, sir. Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Thank you, Shruti.
You have devoted your precious time. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Shruti.
Now we are going to end the session, and it would be pleasurable if you just remain in the next session.
Definitely, I'll join back early when you start. Okay.
Thank you very much, ma'am.
Okay, Shruti.
Thank you, all the participants, for making the session so active and successful. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much. छोड़ दिया मैंने।
I request all the participants to be with us as we are going to start our next session within a few minutes. I request all the participants to be with us as we are going to start our next session on phonetics very soon, within few minutes. Good afternoon, ma'am. And I welcome everybody as we have just attended the previous session of interpreting poetry. Now we are going to start the session with Ma'am Dolly Gambhir ma'am, who is assistant professor in Muslim College, and as well as she is running her own institution for English literature and language. She is expert in linguistics. So now we are just requesting you, ma'am, to start the session.
Good evening, ma'am.
Good evening, ma'am.
Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
So, good evening, everybody. Thank you so much. Thanks to all the organizers, all the teachers, principal ma'am. Thank you, everybody, for giving me this opportunity where I can exchange whatever little knowledge I have with you all. I'm really glad that today, a webinar has been organized on a topic like phonetic, right? Because we all understand, we all know the importance of English language. We know, we acknowledge that this language is renowned language of communication, right? We know that it is an international language. It helps us in many ways, whether to fetch a good job, to get a good employment. And mother like us, when we go and attend PTA meet, this language, I tell you, is so required, right? And many ways it enhances our personality, it polish our personality, it gives a new way to carry ourselves, and it also helps in boosting our confidence. And undoubtedly the importance of language cannot be denied, right? But one point I would like to add on is that we work really hard to learn this language, as we are the learner of English language, right? We put our heart and soul, but sometimes what we do, we kind of ignore the manner in which it should be spoken, right? We forget to, and we oftenly do that, we forget to speak out it in correct manner, right? We don't know how a certain word is pronounced, how a particular word is spoken. Now many of you can object, ki ma'am, we have put our heart and soul, and now you are saying that you speak in a wrong manner. No, I'm not saying that. It's just that we follow sometimes the tone, the style, the accent of our mother tongue, right? Which is kind of, it's like wearing good clothes, wearing new clothes, but with a bad match. And I hope it will not work for anybody, right? So speaking English is really important. But what is more important is that to speak it in a good manner, right? In a correct manner, to use proper accent, to use proper, style, to correctly pronounce it, and which is more important. I hope now you all agree with me, right? And that's where the work of phonetic begins. That's where the importance of phonetic commenced, right? Because, when we speak English, sometimes what happens, soon I will be sharing a slide with you all, where you all will cooperate with me. I will ask you to pronounce certain words, and you will came to know that till now the pronunciation which we were using was actually wrong. Okay, so to prove my point, I would like to share a screen. Will you allow me to do that, ma'am? You are so kind. Thank you so much. Just give me a second. Yeah. So can you see the screen? Can you see some words on your screen?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Sure.
So, ma'am, I would like your cooperation, or any teacher, any students who is so kind to attend my lecture, this webinar, please, can they read out few words for me? Can they? Will it be possible?
Yes, ma'am. We have the students here. Please raise your hands.
Any volunteer out there? Is any volunteer out there?
Ma'am, we can directly invite them.
Okay, ma'am. Any.
Please raise the hands if you
Yeah, anybody can raise hand who is
pronounce the word.
interested to pronounce such words. Anybody. Okay.
Any student.
So I can see Rishi, right? Okay.
Yes.
Yes, ma'am. Cuff, swing, ghost, lieutenant,
Okay.
oven, onion,
Okay.
privacy,
Okay.
housewife,
Okay.
eyebrow.
Okay, very well done, Rishi. Now, please don't mind, but I would like to give my pronunciation or the correct pronunciation, right? The first word is not cough, as Rishi said, it's cough. Okay, the other word is not swing, it's sewing, right? The next word is not ghost, the g sound is not coming here, it's ghost. G, it's not g, it's g. Okay, the fourth is a miracle, and it's, you must be wondering, when f sound is not there, how can I'm pronouncing it? It's lieutenant. Okay, the next word is oven. Next is onion. We eat every day, we use this, and still we pronounce it wrong, right? So it's onion. It's privacy. Everybody asks for privacy, right? But we ask for privacy, that is why we are not getting it. We should ask for privacy. I hope we will get it. Now, the last word is eyebrows. Every girl out there should listen to me. It's not eyebrows, it's eyebrows. Okay, and the word is not housewife because they are not written separately. I have not given a space between house and wife. If I would have given the space, it would be housewife, but it's hazi. Now you must be wondering, what is hazi? Hazi is a case in which we keep needle, thread, sui dhaga. I hope everybody understand. So hazi, right? That's where the phonetic begins, right? That's where the phonetics works as a rescue, because you have seen yourself that we were pronouncing these words in a wrong manner. Okay, so now phonetic is a topic. It is a concept which is impossible for me to sum up in this webinar, because it is a topic which needs hours and hours of discussion, which needs hours and hours of hard work, toil. But still, I would like to give you a tiny taste of what phonetics all about, right? So please allow me. I am going to share another screen with you where I hope you can all see the screen. Can you all see the slide out there? Am I audible to you all? Okay, right. Okay, so now what is phonetics? Phonetics is a theory, you can read it out there. Phonetics is a theory about human speech and sound that we use in speaking. Now, when I say speaking, what do I exactly mean by speaking? See, every language has two forms. Okay, first form is spoken and the second form is written. Okay, now we all speak something. We speak a language, whether it is native, whether it is regional, whether it is national, whether it is international. Every one of us speak languages because language help us to express ourselves. Okay, so when we speak language, that is the spoken form of language, right? Now, when I say the another form, which is written form, what I exactly mean by that, languages like local language, regional language, they don't have their written form. Okay, but fortunately, our international language, our global language, which is English, our own mother tongue, which is Hindi, our national language, we should be proud of it, right? So they do have written form. Okay. So now the another point is, it is the science, you know, you understand Vigyan. Vigyan means just to split thing apart, to go into depth, to go deeper, to dig beneath the surface is the science. So it is the science of signs, S-I-G-N-S. Signs means symbols. Now, what exactly I mean by saying it, that signs means you can see there are some funny signs, I would say them, because we all are unaware, right? There are some signs on the screen. Can you see it all? Please give me a thumbs up. Okay, thank you so much. So kind of you. Right. So we can see some signs on our screens, and these signs, these symbols are known as International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay, now when I say alphabet, you will be confused. In English, we have 26 letters. In English alphabet, we have 26 letters. Now, what are these which you can see on your screen? So, as you can see on your screen, there is English alphabet versus International Phonetic Alphabet, known also as IPA. It's abbreviation, it's short form. Okay, so in English alphabet, we have, already know that we have 26 letters, out of which 5 vowels and 21 consonants. Agreed? Okay, now just give me a second. So we cannot begin without another exercise, because to prove my point, I need to read these words out. Now I'm going to read the words on your screen. The first word is cat. The another word is R. The third word is ago. The next word is also. And the last word is village. Now, in all these 5 words, we have a letter A, which is common. Okay, agreed? Letter A is common out there. But you can see, just like human beings, these letters also have to perform many tasks. In word 1, cat, it is sounding as a. In another letter, in another word, it is a. It is giving the sound of a. In next, it is giving the sound of a. Ago. Next, it is giving the sound of o. In last, it is giving the sound of I. So a single letter has to give out many sounds, and these sounds are known as International Phonetic Alphabet, IPA. I just shared a slide with you. Now, these are also multitasker, because in English, we just have 26 letters, right? And in IPA, here the IPA works. In IPA, we have 44 symbols, 44 sounds, and these are the sounds and the symbols of International Phonetic Alphabet. Okay. Now, I am going to read this phonetic chart with you all. So these phonetic alphabet, they are 44 in numbers. How many are they? They are 44 in numbers. Out of 44, 20 symbols are known as monophthongs and diphthongs. They are including they are all together called vowels, vowel sound, and remaining 24 are known as consonant sound. Because I've already told you that this webinar, we cannot sum up this huge concept like phonetic, but still I would quickly introduce with monophthongs and diphthongs. Now, when I say signs, signs means what we do when we do not know any word, what we do, we look into the dictionary, right? We know the meaning of the word, but unfortunately, we never focus at how this word is pronounced. And in the beginning of this webinar, I have proved my point. Clear? So now, from now onwards, whenever we look into the dictionary, we have to try to understand these symbols, these signs given in the dictionary in front of a word. Okay, so now the first sign on the chart you can see is the symbol is small I with 2 dots. It is known as E. The sound it gives out is E, like sheep, like bleat. Okay, and then we'll move to another sign, which is I. You can see on your screen, it looks like I as in E. Ship, as the example given, bit, chit, chip, pin, etc. And the list goes on. The next word, the next sign is U, right? So how we pronounce it? We pronounce it as U, U. For example, good, good. Okay. Now you must be looking on my lips, towards my lips, and you must be finding it very funny, right? But when we speak out vowels, it's not that only my lips are doing all the work. No, we have whole lot of speech organs for that, right? And they are doing the job for us. It's not only the tongue is working, it's not only the lips are working. Like us, they are also the multitasker. It's just that we do not acknowledge their importance. Now, what happens? Because we have no idea that how these organs of speech work. So what we do, we speak the English with plain accent. Now it's like having a tasty food but with no salt, and I hope nobody likes it. So if you have a good food, you should flaunt it. If you have good clothes, flaunt it. So similarly, if we know English, flaunt it. And how will we be able to flaunt it? We will be able to flaunt it with a proper accent. And these organ of speeches, now again I will like to repeat myself. If this class would have been offline, I would be able to explain more and more, but no problem. I'm trying to give a good taste over here. So I will not digress with the topic. I will quickly give you an idea how these organs of speeches work. Right? When we pronounce any consonant, right? The friction of organs are there. Like if I pronounce B, right? It might look funny on the screen, but that's how we speak English, right? So when I say B, the friction between my lips are there. Okay, but when I speak any vowel, there is no friction. Okay, so these organs of speeches, they help you out to they sort out your problem so that you won't look fake, you won't look artificial when you speak English. So that's a big help to us, and we have to acknowledge the importance of speech organs, because not only it's not about lips and tongue only. There are a whole lot of organs out there which are doing a good task for us. Now I'll quickly come back to the signs. I'll quickly revert back to the signs. Now I'll move on to another sign, which is the fourth sign, and it gives the sound of, you can see the sign, it is in U form, U with 2 dots, right? So it sounds as in U. For example, tooth, okay, booth. Clear? I'll move on to next sign, which is E. It looks like small e, letter small e, like bet, bed, bet, let. Here, sorry. Next sign is inverted e, and e as in her. I have seen people saying, I'm sorry if I am hurting anybody's sentiments, but I have heard people saying, give me her copy, right? It's her copy. It's her dress. It's not her. We are insulting her by saying that, right? It's her. And we have to, and this we have to work on it, right? And I hope these signs will, definitely going to help you out. You just need to mug up with the signs, okay? Now, the next sign is ulta u with 2 dots. It's like bird, bird, curd, right? Clear? Am I clear? So the sound, we have to move while speaking. We have to move our this part also, the jaw part also. It's like bird, curd. The next is inverted C with 2 dots, as in the sound it gives out is law, law. Shruti ma'am, you must be, relating to it, right? Law, law, claw, paw. Next sign is A and E included together. It's like, and the sound it gives out cat, cat, bat, bat. I have seen people saying, give me a pan, give me a pan. Are you asking for the saucepan or frying pan? No, you are asking for a pan with the help of which we write. So it's pen. So here the sound eh, which is there only comes, and the sound which gives A and E together is cat, a long air. Now I'll move on to next sign, which is inverted V. It gives the sound of flat O. It's up, it's cup, it's tup, it's plup, it's club, and many more words and examples are there. Following this sign, you can practice it on. Next sign I will move on to is A with 2 dots. Just like car, heart, fart, right? And next is inverted A. It's like on, pond, 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 bond. Clear? These are the monophthongs. Now, what do we exactly mean by monophthongs? Monophthongs means single sound, single vowel sound. You must have noticed that when I say E, so I am using single sound. It's like neat. It's like beat. Clear? And when I say single sound, I mean there is not gliding from one vowel to another vowel. Now I'll move on to my another topic, which is diphthong. I hope I am not making it quite boring. If this would have been offline class, this would have been bit interactive, but we have, we are restricted. So this has to be like this. Okay. So now I'll move on to another topic, which is our diphthongs. Now, when I say diphthongs, what exactly I mean? Diphthong means when 2 vowel sounds are coming together. Diphthongs means when sound of one vowel is gliding, it's sliding towards another sound. So it's like the first symbol is I and E together. It gives the sound of ear. It gives the sound of ear. So like in dear, like in clear, like in peer, and etc. The next sound is A. It's small a and I. It is represented as small e and I. So when I say, you can notice that, one vowel sound is gliding towards another. It is giving the sound of a. Now, the next diphthong is ew, like pure. Okay. So next sound is oi, boy, coy, toy. And the next sound is, next symbol you can see on your screen, and the sound they are giving out is O, O, so. Next sound is correct E and inverted E. They are the symbol, and they are giving the sound of air, air, like in pear. Okay, the next is ein, I, like in mine, like in pine, like in mind, etc. And the final diphthong is giving out the sound of ow, like in owl, like in how. Am I clear with everybody? I can't see anybody out there. Okay. Okay, right. So now we'll move on to, these are monophthongs and diphthong, which altogether are 20 in numbers. There are 12 monophthongs, I've already told you, and 8 diphthongs. And I'm sure you people are not aware with these sounds, these symbols. And let me tell you, it will enhances your personality as you start really realizing the importance of these sounds. If you start using certain sounds, if you start speaking, if you start following phonetics, you will be able to speak out correctly with good pronunciation. You will be able to impress people with your speaking style. That's it. And now I would like to share another slide with you all. Okay, so now we'll discuss some of the short vowels and the long vowels. Now, when I say short vowel, can anybody please tell me what exactly we understand by short vowels? Can anybody volunteer? I can't listen to anyone. Can you hear me out? Am I audible? Am I audible to you all?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, 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 okay. So can anybody help me out with the thing like short vowels? When I say short vowel, can anybody volunteer?
Is there anyone? Yes, others?
No one is there?
Others? You just thumbs up. It's okay. We may move on now.
Yeah, okay. Shall we continue?
Yes, Anshika. Anshika, raise the hand.
Yeah. Can you please help me out, Anshika? What do you understand by short vowels?
Anshika, unmute yourself, beta, first.
Yes, ma'am. Ma'am, the short vowels words are that are not that doesn't allow the words to expand them. The maximum word limit is 3 words. There are so much example like NVM, never mind, TBH, to be honest, etc.
Okay. So by short vowel, you understand that, right? Okay. So thank you, Anshika. So short vowel, we cannot expand them, right? We cannot stretch them. Okay. So when I say, so there are list of short vowel you can see on your screen. When I say e, 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 e means small e. अगर हम हिंदी में बोले तो it's like e, छोटा e. Okay, so now like in ship, lip, we cannot say leap, we cannot say sheep, right? It will look funny and also fake, and also people would acknowledge us as that no, they cannot speak good English, no matter how hard work we have put on in English, learning English, right? Now another short vowel is e. We have read their signs in earlier slide. Now we are just practicing out with some of the examples, right? In short vowel, we cannot expand the word. We cannot stretch it. We cannot take it too long. Okay, these are short vowel. We have to quick it, as their name suggests, they are not misnomer. As their name suggests, we have to speak them quickly. Okay. Now, the next short vowel is cat. We cannot say cat, cat. No, it's cat, it's pan, it's ant. And we have to finish speaking our word. Next is cut, some. Now, in some, S-O-M-E, some, the letter O is there, right? But it is giving the sound of A. It is not giving the sound of O, which means there are combination and where the magic of phonetic begins, right? Next is pot, hot, watch. Next is ashtray, agree, tomato. These are few examples of short vowels. We cannot stretch these words, and knowing the having the idea where to stretch, how to stretch, and why to stretch is very important in English. Because when we speak Hindi, okay, there is no rise and fall, there is no intonation and modulation largely. Okay, but when we speak English, okay, we cannot we cannot speak it without intonation, without a proper accent. Like in Hindi, a big word I know is lohapat gamini. So I cannot keep on saying lohapat gamini. No, I cannot say that. But in English, if I say psychology, it will not sound good, right? So the right pronunciation of the word psychology is psychology, psychology. So how to pronounce, where to put the stress is the job of phonetics. That's where the phonetics come as a rescue. Okay. Now I'll move on to long vowels, and you can see the list of long vowels. They are divided in monophthongs and diphthongs again, and I have already shared the signs. You must, I hope now you people know the signs. Now some of the signs are familiar to you, because I have given decent explanation over it, and by following that explanation, I just hope that when you now look into the dictionary, you will be able to acknowledge or recognize such sound. So let's come back to our previous slide, which is long vowels, the slide of long vowels. So when I say E, like in meal, like in seat, so I have to stretch my vowel, my word a bit. But if I say sheep, so the listener would think that I am talking about SHEEP, whereas I intend to talk about ship. So that is why the knowledge of vowel, the sound, is really important, right? Where to stretch, how to stretch is the task of phonetics. Clear? It helps you out there in certain things. Now, the another long vowel is burn. Up, you cannot say burn, burn. It will look flat. Okay, so it's like burn, it's warm, it's turn. Next is arm. Arm. You can see my mouth opening a bit. Arm, arm. Right? I cannot keep my mouth shut. Arm, arm. I cannot say that. Law, caught. These are some of the examples of long vowels. Now, we'll again see some of the example of diphthongs. Diphthongs, again, I will repeat. Diphthongs mean double sound. Double sound of what? Double sound of vowels. Double sound of vowels. How? Here in diphthongs, one vowel glide to another, right? If I say clear, you can see clear, clear, e, o. The sound of two vowels altogether are coming out. It's like e, o, e, o. So which means here diphthong is there. Okay, so first example is ear, ear. So here, near, queer. These are some of the example of first diphthong, and the sign of first diphthong is I and inverted E. The next sign is inverted T and E, right? It is the giving out, the sound of, the symbols are in front of you, and the sound it is giving out is square, air, air. Please just look towards my mouth. It might look funny, but that's how we speak English, right? We have to use, I've already told you, I have shared the slide of speech organs with you. And we have to use, when we have things to use, why not? So we have to use all these organs of speech while speaking out, clear? And by doing that, by acknowledging your organs of speech, your spoken will not look artificial, neither it is going to look funny, nor it is going to look fake, right? So I'll come back to the point again. So the third diphthong is ear, ear. For example, newer, newer, sure, manure, right? So you just have to put bit of stress on diphthong and you will be able to speak properly. Now the next fourth diphthong is, the symbol is E and I, and the sound it is giving out is A. A, like in say. What do you say? Right. So it is like daily, make, lay, pray, etc. Next is A and I together give the sound of I. For example, try, sigh, my. Next is oi, oi. Inverted C and I, the symbols are. Now they are the sound they are giving. You can also note them down, because for sufficient amount of time they are on your screen. It will be beneficial for you all if you jot them down, because you know, out of sight, out of mind. So just don't let it out of sight. To keep in your mind, please keep in your sight, right? So my, next is my, try, sigh, I sound is coming out. Okay. Next is noise, boy, oyster. Next is no, oh, toe, oh, right? So these are long vowels, short vowels, diphthongs we have in front of you all. Clear? Now, one thing we get, so often we get confused that when we speak English, what do? We normally follow the spelling. So the important point is, when we follow the spelling, we might end up speaking, word in a wrong manner. We might up ending speaking out the word incorrectly. So I would like to add on here that spelling, the spelling and pronunciation, they never go hand in hand. We cannot say that I can pronounce a word according to its spelling. It's not the case, right? Because English is a language which is arbitrary, right? It is manmoji language. It doesn't follow any rules, right? And we have to, if you know it, you know it. If you don't know it, you have to know it, right? Because this is the need of time. This is what I have told you earlier. So I have explained each and everything. Now we cannot end up our webinar without another exercise. So here on your screen, there are few words like city, busy, pretty, women. Okay, so I have pronounced for you. Now I would like to ask any one of you can reply me. I would like to ask which same sound these words are giving out. Kindly raise your hand if you are finding the class bit interactive. Let's not make it monotonous. That is why the interaction is there. Can anybody help me out? No problem. I'll read the words if nobody is there. Okay. Finally, someone is there. So Adarsh, Jabalpur raised the hand.
City, busy, pretty, woman.
Okay. So it's Adarsh. Let me correct you. It's women.
Women.
Okay. Now, can you please tell me, city, busy, pretty, women. These four are, there are four words, and these four words are giving out one common sound. Can you please tell me which is the common sound?
City, city,
It's E,
busy,
right? It's E.
pretty, itty,
It's
you
E.
woman,
Women, yeah.
women.
So yeah, it's, thank you so much. Thank you for your cooperation. So city, busy, pretty, women, right? Now, all four words are giving out one common sound, which is the sound of E, right? And E, giving out the sound of E is the job of letter E. But here is not the case, which means spelling, by following the spelling, you cannot say that you will be able to speak right word. You will be able to speak any word in correct manner. I have told you C-I-T-Y, city. Here I is giving out the sound of E. In busy, the word, if we follow the spelling, the word should be pronounced as buzzy or buzzy, but it's not that. How we call it busy only, right? Pretty, women, O is doing the job of E, right? So hence I prove my point that following only the spelling will not lead us anywhere. We'll end up speaking English in wrong manner, and ultimately our our aim to learn English is to just flow with the time, right? Because we human beings tend to update ourselves. Earlier we would use pagers or phone with buttons. Now we no longer use them. We use Android phones, we use advanced technology. So with language also we should work hard. We should focus on the phonetics, so that whatever word we should, again I would like to say, and we always say that we should focus on the quality then the quantity, right? It's not how many words you know, it's about the words you know. Can you pronounce it in a better way? Are you pronouncing them correctly? I think it's the more important point we should focus on. And today in this seminar, in this webinar, I have just try to enlighten you all, as you all my students right there. So I have tried to enlighten you, and I would like to motivate you to learn to focus on phonetic as well. And if you want to escape yourself from looking artificial fake, you should focus that's my suggestion, that you should focus on phonetics. Now, up to you, Shruti.
Thank you very much. I
Thank you, ma'am.
invited the queries or the questions to be asked. Does anyone have any question?
Thank you, everybody, being so patient with me, being cooperative, being interactive with me. I hope I was able to impart whatever little knowledge I had. So thank you so much, everybody, for your attention, for the opportunity. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much, Dolly Gambhir ma'am, as you have just enlightened us with all the knowledge and let us knew about the information or the knowledge about phonetics, or basic information. Thank you for all your efforts. And fortunately, we are having you tomorrow too with the literary theory and the criticism. Thank you very much.
Thank you, ma'am. Thank you. Thank you.
I thank you. Yes. I put my thanks to all the participants for making this session very successful or active too. And we are just hoping you tomorrow.
Thank you.